What is happening, world? Welcome to another special installment of No Banana Peels here over at Of Men and Monkeys. I, of course, am your uniquely corny host, Dylan Masvidal, and today we've reeled in some big fish. I think it's suffice to say that our guest needs no introduction, but we're obviously going to give him one anyway. His YouTube channel has amassed close to 80 million views, prolific videography with over 400 plus videos, and as you can see behind me, right over here, he is a connoisseur and historian of many artists out there, specifically in the hip-hop genre. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Mr. CDTV Productions.
Hello, everybody. That was a great introduction. Thank you, man.
Hey, the best for the best. Real recognize real, of course.
Appreciate it, man.
Well, I just
for having me on here.
Oh, of course. Anytime. I wanted to ask really quick, how's your day been so far? Doing good?
It's been a pretty solid day so far. Woke up a little bit late, but other than that, it's going pretty smooth.
I wish I still had to, run some early errands, get this whole thing set up. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I like my guest to be up and at 'em, and it seems like you're ready to go. I mean,
Definitely.
With the classic black hat as usual.
Of course. We got a little beanie collection back here as well.
Let's not get too ahead of that. I actually have a question about that. So.
Okay. Yeah. I'll hold off for that.
Perfect. So, as always, with all my guests, no matter how far along they are in their careers, or whether they've been blowing up recently or have, like I said, mentioned before, been veterans of the game, I like to start at the beginning, right? The inception. Okay. And for you, that happens to be your love of hip hop. And I just wanted to ask right off the bat, what sparked that? Where was that born from? Where does that stem from?
Okay, perfect. I feel like it's not to generalize here, but a pretty typical white kid answer to say that it started off with Eminem for me.
Yeah.
So I think the first Eminem CD that I got, my mom bought it for me when I was like 10 years old. And clearly she didn't know what the content of the CD was going to be, because the first one I got was Relapse, like literally when it came out in 2009. So yeah, I was listening to that when I was like 10 years old. Didn't really fully understand everything that was being talked about on there. It's quite a graphic album, you could say. And after that, I think I either had Curtain Call before that or after, but one thing I specifically remember was it was the clean version of Curtain Call that I had. So those were like the original versions of the songs there to me for a while.
Well, I don't know how you listened to Big Weenie and clean version, but I'm sure it was quite the experience. Sure.
It was. And so it started with Eminem. And then after that, I feel like the next rapper I branched to after him, I listened to, Eminem for a while, got Recovery when that came out. And then shortly after that, I got into something I still hear about to this day. And in my comments, people saying, "Oh, you criticize this artist, but you used to love this artist." After that, I got into Hopsin.
Oh, yeah, Hopsin. Hey.
Now, in my defense, all right, I was like 12, 13 at the time, okay?
Yeah, I've been there too, man. Listen, the man who invented college, did he go to college? Let's be honest here.
Valid. Okay, then, And so I feel like he was the second rapper that I fully got into his music. And then from there, I think, credit to Hopsin, I just branched out from there and started getting introduced to more and more music, started going towards more mainstream stuff. One of my friends kind of put me on to more mainstream hip-hop, and ever since there, it's just kind of branched out into trying to listen to as much hip-hop as I can.
No, I mean, listen, I'll agree with you here as well. Aside from Kendrick Lamar's Money Trees, I think Eminem was my first glimpse into hip-hop. And funny enough, the year I got super invested in the genre, it was gearing up to be the release of what some consider to be his most controversial and decisive album, Revival.
Ooh,
so maybe not the best time, but it did it hardened me for what to expect from diehard hip hop fans, for sure. So.
Oh yeah. Revival was an interesting time.
I defended Untouchable, like my life depended on it.
Oh yeah, man! I almost forgot about that song for a second. I need to go back to that because I haven't listened in a long time. See how I feel about that again. But I remember that one starts off with like the rock beat, right? And then beat switch like halfway through.
Yeah, he uses
Yeah,
the Cheech and Chong sample on that one, and then
yeah, that's the one.
he has that line. Oh, there's a lot of bad line. I mean, it's I don't even want to get into its revival, but to piggyback off that initial spark, right? So you get into hip hop, you seem to really love this genre and want to, I'm assuming, discuss it.
Yeah.
How does that lead to CDTV Productions? Why the name CDTV in particular? Actually, I don't know if you've ever been asked that, but
Yeah, solid questions right there, man. Yeah, I tend to like ramble a little bit, so it's good these questions keep me on track,
Yeah.
So I think so. I started my channel when I was 17, about to turn 18. So, and then I would say I started listening to rap music when I was maybe 10 or so years old. So I've been listening like for quite a while before I even thought about starting a channel. And it wasn't something that I really thought about doing for a long time because when I was younger, I had a gaming channel on YouTube. And yeah, I had that
You
for
always got to have one. You
of
always got to
course,
have
of course. I
one.
think everybody, a
Guilty.
lot of people start that. Right, right. See, I feel like that's just like a natural progression for a lot of people. That's where they start, right? Because it's like, I don't know, you probably watch, like for me, it was that I watched a lot of gaming creators when I was younger. And I was like, this looks easy, man. I like playing video games a little bit. I'll play some video games and talk over them. So I did that for about 6 years. Got about 2,000 subscribers on that channel over 6 years. But definitely not something that I could make into any type of make any type of living off of, or it wasn't like something that would keep me financially secure. And then that just wasn't going anywhere. So after a while, I was thinking to myself, like, it wasn't really working because I wasn't super passionate about the gaming content, really. I just kind of started it because I wanted to make YouTube videos, and that seemed like an easy way to do it. And then I was like, well, why don't I just start a channel where I talk about something that I'm actually passionate about, which is rap music. And it was kind of intimidating at first because I didn't really know where to start with, obviously I would talk to my friends about it, but that's different to reviewing it and discussing it and doing all this other kind of stuff, especially on like a sort of like public platform. So, but I just decided I would give it a shot. I was like, this will be my last try at YouTube. If this fails, then I'll give up on it. That was literally my plan. Like, if the CDTV Productions channel didn't work out, I just stop, try and do something else. And fortunately, it did work out. So the name,
quite the understatement, I'll tell you that. It definitely did work out.
Thank you. Yeah. And the name CDTV Productions. So that also traces back to the start of the channel. So I'm jumping around the timeline a lot here, but so when I started out, I remember I was on holiday in Spain when I came up with the idea for the channel. I just randomly remembered that. Was just watching a bunch of YouTube videos while I was there, in this beautiful sunny country, not going outside, just watching some YouTube videos, And then I had this idea that at first it was going to be kind of like top 10 videos on movies and music. So I was going to cover movies at first as well. And that's so movies, music. You got music you would traditionally listen to on CDs.
Yeah, of course.
Movies you would traditionally watch on TV. So I was like, CDTV Productions right there.
I mean, it rolls off the tongue. It definitely rolls off the tongue. So.
And I do kind of like how the TV part of that is not necessarily relevant to the channel anymore. But you know what? It's got its own meaning now. It's just its own name,
Yeah, it still fits. I'll give you that. It stood the test of time for sure. Oh, well, actually, you bring up the fact that you started doing top 10s, and that was kind of your main interest. The first video on your channel, currently on CDTV Productions, I know you haven't heard this name in a while. It's the top 10 fastest futuristic verses of all time. Is that someone you knew from the beginning? Okay, this is who I'm going to start with? Or did you kind of have like this idea of, okay, maybe I can do him to start small, go down the list from there? How did that first video just kind of, come together?
So from what I can remember, I think it was literally just that I was listening to a lot of Futuristics music at the time. He's not an artist that I keep up with anymore, but when I started my channel, he was someone that I listened to quite a lot. And I was like, hey, he raps quite fast sometimes. It could be fun to do a little series that, covers 10 fastest verses. So I came up with my little formula for it that isn't really an accurate formula for 10 fastest verses, but it's more like 10 fastest 10-second segments of verses.
Yeah.
Was kind of how I did it.
Yeah.
So I would just listen to literally as many songs as I could from an artist, pick the fastest 10-second segment, and then go on Genius and literally count up the syllables for each part, add it up, and come up with like a syllables per second measurement. And so, yeah, I think it was literally with him. I was just listening to him a lot at the time, and that's how that came about. And I really didn't expect that video to, do as well as it did. I think it's at 500,000 right now.
It's 500,000, yes.
Which is like, for an artist like Futuristic, it's not necessarily numbers I expected, because, he does good numbers, but then somebody else making a video about him is obviously going to do less numbers than he does.
Yeah.
So I was quite surprised with how well that one did over time,
I mean, listen, it's you see, you can start to pinpoint the beginnings of what would eventually lead to your channel now. And obviously the top 10 fastest verses series was a pretty prominent series in your channel. And lately you've kind of done other lists, or instead of specific lists, more like, I know recently you uploaded the Nostalgia Bait samples video, which I was a big fan of, because that has been very prominent now in hip-hop. And I have a question about that later. But is there any reason why you kind of let that one maybe not die, but laid it to rest a little bit? Is it your taste has changed, or you're looking to explore other avenues in hip-hop?
That's a solid question, because I think there's I'd say at least a couple reasons why the 10 fastest verses series has kind of been like put to rest, as you said. I think what I did with I eventually posted a couple videos for it on like Instagram. I just, like, without any commentary, I just put the verses together in a little like slideshow type of thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, I just kind of put it to rest permanently. I think one of the things is just, I sort of like ran my course with that series, covered most of the people that I want to cover with it. Another thing is they're very time-consuming videos to do if it's for an artist that you just started getting familiar with, because it's like, okay, I've heard like an album or two where this person seems to have some fast verses. Now I've got to dive through their whole discography, all their features, all their singles, and like dive through every single song they have basically, and try and compile a list of their 10 fastest verses, make sure I don't miss anything. Because the more that, like, when I started that series, I was just very loose in general with it. It was just, it'll just be the 10 fastest verses I've heard from this artist. And then the more it went on, I was like, I don't want to miss anything, so I'm going to listen to everything they've got that could possibly have a fast verse. And it just became very time consuming to do that particular type of video.
Yeah.
And also, one thing that was quite annoying about that series, which I guess is a third reason why I sort of let it go, is just the fact that it's a guaranteed copyright claim for every single one of those. Because when I started that series, YouTube used to have it so that you could play much longer clips of music without getting copyright claimed. Back then, you could play up to like 24 seconds in a row of music without getting copyright claimed. Now you have to stick to like under 7 seconds, which is like so restrictive.
Yeah.
And like I said, for that series, it's a 10-second burst that I have to play the whole thing. It would kind of ruin the video if I didn't. So it's just a guaranteed instant copyright claim every single time I make one of those. And then it's UMG taking the money from the video, or WMG or Sony, like just a bunch of different labels.
I will not speak. If I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, we can't have beef with the labels right here. They're powerful,
Yeah. But I mean, that makes perfect sense. I understand why eventually you'd kind of want to do more, not to say nuanced, but ones that are a little more complicated in terms of the kinds of top 10 lists, or just what you're highlighting. And I mean, it's gotten you so far now. I mean, look at the point you're at now in your YouTube career, and you've kind of gained a sort of, not nickname, but they've kind of labeled you as YouTube's Scottish rap critic.
YouTube's Scottish rap critic. I like that.
And I just wanted to ask, is this a title you knew was inevitably going to be handed down to you once you started gaining a following?
I don't really know, honestly. There's not necessarily... All I hoped for when I started was just like, I hope this is, something that I can keep doing and something that I can make a living out of. So it's something that I can dedicate all my time to. And that was really my focus, you know, not necessarily aiming for any particular kind of status within the community
Yeah.
necessarily. Just like, man, I want to do this and I want to do good with it, you know? I want
Yeah.
to. One of my biggest goals was just to hit 100,000 subscribers, because I remember I was like really into YouTube when I was younger, and I saw people with their subscriber plaques, and I was like, man, I would love to have one of those. And now it's at the point that I have two of them because I, of course, stole my twins' 100,000 subscriber plaque, CDTV the
Oh,
G. You know?
CDTV the G.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get him on
RIP.
here soon as well.
Yeah, of course, of course. But yeah, just I just really hope that, you know, it was something that I could keep doing is pretty much what I was aiming for.
Were you also expecting the beanies to become a staple of your channel as well?
That's a good question as well, because not really, no, I didn't know that would sort of become my thing, but I think I can't even remember why I did it in my first video. I was just like, you know what, maybe I just throw on a specific item of clothing and you know, something that I wear in every single video. Maybe I did expect it to be some kind of thing, but I just throw on a beanie I had and like that was it, you know.
And you
And
have the
like I said, I got
collection
my
back there, yeah, of
collection right here.
course.
This bottom row right here, you see, I don't know if you can see like the red, the
Yeah,
yellow.
of course.
My sister actually made those ones, which is quite nice. And
That's super cool.
the split one, the pink and purple one,
Yeah,
she made that one as well. So yeah,
I wish I could pull off beanies. I mean, I'm not really much of a hat guy in general, but you seem
Yeah.
to, it suits you very well. I'll be honest.
I think I will say other people have agreed with me on this in my live streams and stuff. I do think the caps suit me better than the beanies, but you know, the
Yeah.
beanies is like the main channel thing now. You know, I can't just switch the caps on the main channel, or sorry, my channel.
Yeah,
You know, sometimes I get a bit confused with the CDTV, the G, my twins channel.
yeah,
Sometimes I accidentally refer to it as my second channel. It's just a little slip up.
yeah. Well, you're just you know, you're just kind of messing with your twin there. It's a little. It's
Of
a little
course,
you know,
yeah.
verbal jabbing. You know, you got to have
Yeah,
some kind
yeah.
of brotherly competition. So.
A little bit of a back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to follow up that with. I obviously, you know, that you were kind of gaining a lot of, or you were starting to gain a lot of steam in the hip hop community during an infamous time in the genre. It's what some would call the mumble rap, or some gatekeepers would call the mumble crap
Of course.
period of music. I mean, all you have to do is watch the Joe Budden versus Lil Yachty interview on Complex,
classic.
where all Lil Yachty wanted was to toast to a bountiful potato harvest, and Joe Budden, excuse me,
Joe
sorry,
Biden.
sorry if Joe Budden's watching this. He, put a plague upon his bloodline. If that meme serves me correctly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
taking part in the discussion yourself, why do you feel these artists and the specific sound they were utilizing was so divisive amongst listeners and gatekeepers at the time?
It's an interesting question. Also, that was just one of my favorite, just sort of eras of hip hop to be making videos, because it was just, I don't know, there was just so much discussion going on specifically with that era.
Yeah.
And something I think back specifically to is like the 2016 XXL list, like
Yeah.
that whole sort of era to like 2018. I think that was like just amazing to be talking about right during. But as to why, so the question was sort of like why this whole, like mumble rap kind of sound was divisive.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it can happen a lot with just whatever is sort of in the mainstream. I think that was the period where, I don't know if it currently still is, but at that time, hip hop was like the biggest genre in the United States, at least.
Yeah.
Like measurably the biggest genre.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a lot of people who listened to it, sometimes myself included, and didn't really understand what this sound was supposed to be or what it was going for. And it's sort of like, oh, I don't get that. That's just terrible,
Yeah.
I think there was it's a sound that not everybody was kind of used to straight away, and I'm definitely included in that for certain artists.
So would you say also that it was starting to show this shift where, hip hop being a genre that's so rooted in lyricism and what you have to say, that artists like, who I'm a fan of, granted, Playboi Carti, Uzi, I'd still say Lil Yachty to a degree, but not necessarily, and who they've inspired kind of emphasize the vibe of a track almost, or, kind of just that, like, that catchiness over the actual content of the song.
I think that is one thing definitely that got certain people mad about it. Just the, like you said, the more of a focus on the vibe and the way things feel, and I feel like there was definitely more of an emphasis on stuff like just like colorful music videos and artists with like interesting looks to them with like colorful hair, and everything just felt. I think a lot of people maybe felt it just felt very like bright and vibrant and commercial in a different way to how hip hop had been before, and yeah, definitely that sort of thing where it's like, oh, these guys aren't even lyricists anymore.
Yeah,
you know? I can't even tell what they're saying, you know. But,
God, there were so many bad lines about that.
yeah. But I feel like there's a lot to appreciate with that era of music, though, you know. And I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with more of a focus on vibe, like over lyrics, but if there is something that's like an obnoxiously bad lyric, of course, I'm gonna address that, because I always look for stuff that would be entertaining to talk about, you know. And bad lyrics are always super fun to talk about.
And I didn't just mean from them as well, because a lot of times I can give that a pass, but just like a lot of the pushback against them, you know, with the whole let's make everyone rap again, what's up with these? I mean, I was also getting tired of that as well.
Bringing real rap back.
Yeah, that stuff was just... And it was... And the thing is, it was from a lot of artists that I do really like, so it wasn't just that it was some... not to be disrespectful, but some rapper who's, you know, trying to kind of get those syllables in. Going, what's up with that? You know, like, you know, real lyricist versus mumble rapper kind of, which I know it's a popular video, but it's like that kind of thing. Yeah.
I will say, I think that, not to throw any shots at anybody, you know, I respect the sort of how that was basically engineered to, like, made to be a viral video, and it succeeded.
Yeah.
But I think that's a perfect thing to point to for, like, oh, that's like a perfect example of this dichotomy of, you know, lyrical miracle versus mumble rap.
That's why it was so interesting, because in my opinion too, the people that were going after these artists, the whole lyrical miracle, you know, it wasn't your let me say, like, it wasn't your Danny Browns, or even you want to go if you want to go even further with underground hip hop, like, it wasn't your Billy Woods or Earl Sweatshirts. Like, it was kind of artists at the time who weren't necessarily being as lyrical to me as they were promoting themselves to be.
And then even, you know, someone who I would say is quite lyrical, quite a lyrical man, and very mainstream, like Eminem.
Yeah,
you know, Kamikaze. One thing I remember, I kind of criticized in my reaction to that album. I like Kamikaze. I think it's a good album. Yeah. But there is a bit too much of a focus on some of the tracks with, like, oh, mumble rappers, they suck, you know, that kind of thing. And at some points it feels tongue in cheek, and at other points it's like, all right, Eminem, you're taking this a bit too seriously, you know.
Yeah.
But then I do get that the thing is, like, he grew up with hip hop. He's extremely passionate about it, and I think, again, he's another example of looking at it and thinking, oh, like, what is this genre I love become? Yeah. But it's just sort of it is something that older people, of course, can enjoy, but music around that era, I think, really appealed to a younger generation, you know?
For sure. Where do you think that some of those, not derogatory, old heads got it right about this current crop of artists, and where do you think they got it wrong?
Ooh, this is interesting. Okay. I need to think about that one a little bit. Where did they get it right with this current crop of new artists? I think, I'm not sure if there's anyone I could think of specifically that said this, but there must be quite a lot of people in the sort of, you know, we'll call it the old head generation, who have brought up stuff about these artists sometimes making music too quickly and firing it out too much. Yeah. I think that's something that's definitely valid, because look at an artist, for example, just to pick one random one that I've talked about a little bit recently, like NBA Youngboy. Yeah. Right? He's his music definitely gives off the vibe of he went into the studio, made it quick, and then he puts everything he records out there, to the point where sometimes he's dropping like 3-4 projects a year. And I guess that's good if you're somebody who only listens to NBA Youngboy, but if you listen to, like, literally any other artist as well, it's just too much to keep up with, and I think it cheapens the value of his music, in the sense that, like, a lot of it does sound very similar. That's another thing maybe
Yeah.
some old heads would bring up, where a lot of it, same style of beats, similar style of rapping, the same kind of melodies from Young Boy. And again, he has some like solid songs, but I think you have to dig through a sea of filler and a lot of stuff that sounds incredibly similar to each other to actually find those great songs. So I definitely think that's something with just the frequency of releases and the quantity of like music that a lot of newer artists are putting out. I think they definitely got that right. If that's a point that they brought up, I mean, that's something I fully agree with.
For sure, I would agree as well.
Yeah. In terms of what they got wrong, I mean, I remember one specifically that I know somebody got wrong. I remember there was an interview. It was Lil Uzi Vert and Ebro. I don't know if you know this one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think so, but you might have to jog my memory here.
Yeah. Ebro was saying to Uzi, basically, you're not gonna, like, no one's gonna remember you by the time you're like 27 or whatever. Like, this type of music is gonna fade out. You're not gonna be successful. Like, he was basically dissing them to his face, or to their face. Sorry. Saying, you're not gonna be around in a few years. No one's gonna care about your music. And Uzi is still making music that's incredibly popular to this day.
I mean, I Just Want to Rock has what, a bajillion streams. Played it at my it was played at my girlfriend's sister's gingse on Friday. So it's very much still Uzi is still very much a staple in the current mainstream.
For sure, and field. I just looked up right there. Uzi is 28 now, so it was maybe even Ebro maybe even said like 25, 26, something like that. But he said like at that point, like you're gonna burn out. No one's gonna care anymore.
I would definitely, and that's what I was gonna agree with you on and bring up as well. I do think they a lot of the older guard kind of doubted the shelf life of some of these artists. Yeah. Now, to be honest, of course, there were a lot that fizzled out, but I think the ones that fizzled out didn't have any sort of charm to begin with. Uzi, even if you dislike his music, he has a charm. Uzi's charm is, aside from the vibe, they can be funny sometimes, and they very much dealt with that, mixing hip hop with a lot more like electronic styles with synths and all that, and it makes you you want to kind of like he does they do the shoulder thing, you do a little bit of the shoulder thing.
Of course.
And obviously, and obviously Cardi, the whole rage, craze nowadays is very influential now. I mean, look at Yeat. I think Yeat is another artist who is kind of a little divisive at first, but I think he's starting to get a lot more love because he's starting. Well, I don't know. I have seen some videos about you on Yeat. You're still maybe split on him. I don't know, but
that's another thing that's interesting. I kind of feel like what we're going through right now is kind of similar to that 2016, 2017 phase of rap music, where I feel like we're going through that sort of phase again with artists like Yeat and the OPM artists like Ken Carson, Destroy Lonely. Just it feels like a different generation of that kind of SoundCloud music era. Feels like we're kind of going through that again, and it's another one of those things where it's taken me some time definitely to kind of feel it out and see what I like within this new sort of subgenre of rap music. And I think there's definitely opinions I have on some of these artists now that I might not agree with on the future, but all I can speak on is what I think right now. So Yeat is someone that is starting to grow on me a little bit. I wouldn't say that he has an album that I necessarily love yet, because I feel like his albums are a little bit too long. But I think he has a very interesting sound, and if he really like focused it down, it could make an amazing album. Destroy Lonely, artist that I'm not a fan of personally, but the more I think about it slightly, I can kind of see a little bit of a vibe there that people maybe enjoy. Ken Carson, don't really get his stuff yet, but so I feel like I'm kind of in that stage of I don't know if I'm fully grasping this new generation, this new sound yet, but it's interesting at least, and it's interesting to talk about,
Yeah. Again, I 100% agree, and I think aside from the fact that you're right about that, if there is another thing though that maybe is also becoming prevalent that I see an issue with, not just for that new crop of Ken Carson, Destroy Lonely, or Yeat, or even Cardi and Uzi also did it, is the length of certain projects. If there's one thing I disliked about the Pink Tape, was that it was way too many songs.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's something that just started creeping up and creeping up and creeping up, because I feel like that happens with so many artists now. But I remember in 2017, 2018, when Migos dropped Culture 2,
Yeah.
I remember that being like, I think it was 24 songs. And at the time, like, and it's like an hour and a half long. And at the time I was like, whoa, that's way too much. Like there's not a lot of people that are dropping music that long. And now it just feels like it's very common for mainstream artists to go like 20 plus songs. And it just, I don't know, some people would make the argument like, oh, well, you could just cut the songs that you don't like out and make your own little playlist for the album.
But that kind of defeats the purpose, because that's not the artist's intention.
Right, exactly. And I think a big, one of the most interesting things to talk about with an album is how it's curated and how it's put together. Like,
exactly.
You got to talk about it the way that it's the artist's vision, not, at least for me as a music reviewer and someone that's passionate about discussing it, rather than what my playlist of an album would be, Like I wouldn't just say, oh, this album is a 10 out of 10 because I cut out all these tracks that I got this 4-track EP that I love right here.
I mean, like, you listen to Good Kid, Mad City. I can just have Mad City, A Good Kid. Oh, I'll take Art of Peer Pressure, Sing About Me. Look at these 4 songs. This is the greatest EP I've ever made in my life. Well, the album is a classic already, but that's because there's a story. It's a concept. You have to go one by one, even if you don't like Real. I know some people don't, but even if you don't, that's a big part of that track list. Even if you don't like a more commercial song like Swimming Pools, that is a very integral part of that album. It only makes the experience better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think as well, to add on to that like, and it's not just a thing where that's the case if the album is like a storytelling album or a concept album. Even if it's something that's just like a compilation of songs that don't necessarily tie together through a cohesive theme, they just, you still want to make, in my opinion, an album that flows together nicely and feels like a solid, complete package of music. Like, obviously with Good Kid, Mad City, if you take out certain songs, it removes from the story. Yeah. But even if there's not a running story throughout a project, like, still just like make it a good album, Don't just throw everything on there.
Exactly. No doubt. And since you've started to gain more of a, I'd like to say, observer point of view from listening to music, you enjoy it, but at the same time you're also looking at things you like, things you dislike. And there's a belief among those who critique art that once you immerse yourself in that world and change how you consume music, film, whatever the case may be, art, well, it is art, but like anything in that realm of entertainment, you can never properly enjoy a piece of work like you used to. And as someone like yourself who's listened to and had opinion on countless albums, would you agree with that statement?
It's interesting because I do think you could say that it is slightly different now sometimes with the way that I consume music, but one of the things that I think made it kind of natural for me to start this channel is I was always someone that listened with a slightly like critical ear, and I always just enjoyed thinking to myself, like, what do I like about this song or what do I not like about this song? And I think when you're thinking in that way, one of the most valuable things is being able to describe why you like something or why you don't like something, even if there's a bit of like bias in there, being able to acknowledge that and be like, oh, I just don't like this particular sound, or there's like this little instrument in there that I don't like, or something like that. So I've always, even since I was young, I think I've listened to music in that kind of way where it's like a little bit more analytical. But definitely now there's a certain thing where it's like the music that I listen to is inherently tied into my job now. Like, it's my career,
that's the toughest part about it, which I know I can relate to that with you 100%.
And there's definitely something I actually talked about with one of my friends recently, which is where, well, it's Brad Taste the Music, if you're aware of his channel. So
I'm trying to, maybe cook something up with him too, but that's beside the point. That's beside the point.
But we were talking a little bit, and he was just talking about some music that he's really got into recently, and he's like lingering on at the moment and just like listening to it over and over and over because it's all he wants to listen to. And like, that's one of the greatest things about when you discover a new artist or a new album that you enjoy. You just sit with it like constantly. And I feel like sometimes I feel a little bit like I have less of an opportunity to do that now because everything moves so quickly, and I've got to make videos on stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't always try and do this, and most of the time I don't necessarily do this, but there is always that pressure being a YouTuber of trying to cover something while it's relevant, and sometimes it does make me feel a little bit like, I can't sit with this album I really like for as long as I want to, and just sometimes I don't want to listen to anything else. I just want to listen to this one particular artist who isn't relevant right now. So it wouldn't, like, if I made a video on them, maybe no one would care. So I just kind of had to move on to something else and see what I can make a video out of, you know?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head on that. I mean, as someone who kind of is also in the similar career path as you, a very huge fear of mine is changing or having like how I feel about an album or a movie. Or I also love professional wrestling, so you know.
Me too, man.
Yeah. Perfect. There you go.
I actually saw on your channel I was looking at it a little bit. I was gonna watch it. The Night of Champions review.
Oh, the podcast review. I still like that pay-per-view. I know Saudi Arabia pay-per-views get a lot of hate, but that one has a couple matches I do really enjoy. So
yeah, man. Yeah, honestly, I could have a full conversation about like wrestling as well. Man.
Oh, okay. That. I'm marking that down right now. Then I'm gonna write that one down. I will be watching Survivor Series on Saturday too. So
me too. War Games. Let's go.
I'm pumped. But as I was saying, with not to go off track, even though that's awesome, that I have this fear that I will radically change my opinion on an album, but not because of over time I've realized I disliked it, but because I didn't properly listen to it, solely because I wanted to be one of the first people to talk about it. And that's and maybe you can relate to that as well, because it's true in this day and age, if you're not first, you're last. That's how a lot of people look at it. And and you don't want to be left in the dust or lost in a sea of voices.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because it definitely feels like that, especially if I could bring it around to reaction content, because like I feel like there's a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot of people, but just like a vocal minority in the comments of some of the like first reaction live streams that I've done and stuff like that, or reaction videos on my twins channel, for example, where I think there's definitely a lot of people who watch them without keeping in mind that it is a first reaction, and like they're not final thoughts or anything like that, but I think a lot of people take it that way just because it's something you spent a lot of time on, and maybe if it's like an edited down reaction video, it's like, oh, you've like sat down, you've edited that, so clearly that's close to your final opinion. And it's not always that way, but with reaction videos there is that pressure to get it out quickly and talk about it as fast as you can. And sometimes when I sit down to react to an album or something, I can feel a little anxious doing it, because it's like, I don't know if I'm in the mood to listen to this today, but I should, because it's new and it's relevant right now.
I have sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. How does that affect you on stream, especially when you have so many eyes on you?
On stream, it's interesting, man. I remember I've definitely had some experiences with it before where I was like, I probably won't even make that live stream public because things got like a little bit too heated or whatever. I remember I did a reaction to A Great Chaos by Ken Carson.
Yeah.
And that one I was just doing something that's not necessarily out of character for me. Like I wasn't feeling the album, so I was like goofing around a little bit. I pulled one of the books off my bookshelf and started like giving a synopsis about the book while the album was playing. And I understand if some people like see that as like, oh, that's disrespectful. Yeah. But to me, I think that reflected how I was feeling about the album almost better than words could. Yeah. The way that I was pulling it, like reading.
You were just being a little, so it was metaphorical, right? There was that subtext, yeah.
But of course, because it was a reaction to an album on the day that it dropped, fans of that artist are searching his name. Ken Carson, The Great Chaos reaction, and just a bunch of like opium stands in my live chat, just trying to like say, oh man, you're not even listening to the album, you don't get it, you're too old for this. And like there was just
that's crazy. You're too old.
Yeah.
What?
It's wild, bro. Like I'm 25. I don't think that's too old. I think I'm about the same age as Ken Carson.
Yeah, no, that's insane. To get him if that worries me. Because we're not too distant in age here, but if eventually there's a new artist that comes out, probably part of the Opium label too, and I'm not feeling it. And I'm already gonna get hit with the "you're washed" comments. God,
It's
I'm
insane,
sorry.
man. So like that's one of those things where it does feel like I'm still going to be honest about how I feel about anything, but it
Exactly.
always feels like with live reactions there is slightly more pressure because people who don't necessarily watch my channel but are fans of the artist are going to be there to watch it a lot of the time. And just because like whenever I'm not feeling an album, they'll say stuff like, "Oh, you just want to hate this," or "You're just a hater,
Yeah.
man." When it's like, no, I'm sitting here and explaining why I feel this way most of the time. Unless I'm being goofy and giving a synopsis of a book while the album is playing, but that's part of the bit, like
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's your personality, and you wanted to express how you felt, and only you could. So you,
yeah. So I think it's one of those things where there's definitely a lot of pressure with the live reaction. Um, but it's still I think an enjoyable way to do a reaction, especially when I don't feel like I have time to edit it down for my twins channel.
yeah.
It's quicker to just do a live reaction and then leave the live reaction public on my channel, and people can go there to see what I think. Most recent one was to Scary Hours 3 by Drake, which I thought was all right, but a lot of
I
people
got
were upset.
some.
I thought it was all right.
Um, First of all, your reaction was one of the first I watched after I listened to it. I
Oh,
think
thank
we
you.
agree on most things about it.
Yeah.
Coming
How did you feel
from
generally, sort of?
a I'd say disillusioned, but also what's the word? Oh, Stockholm syndrome. Drake fan. I
Okay,
love
okay.
Drizzy. Uh, I've been a fan since I was 2015 or around there when I had a good friend
Okay.
of mine recommend him to me, and I've loved him ever since. I was maybe 11 or 12, and hey, listen, I used to think Scorpion was a great album. Okay,
Oh
that's
wow.
and
Okay.
I'm not saying it's awful, but that's how into deep I was with
Right.
being a huge fan. And over the years, I've realized, okay, those records don't hold up. And then you got Certified Lover Boy, and I wasn't a huge fan. And then
Yeah.
you have Honestly Nevermind, and I really wasn't a fan of that one.
We're on the
And
same page with
then
that.
For All the Dogs came, and I said, this is it. I'm putting all my chips down on this album. 8 AM in Charlotte came out a day before it released. I love
Yeah.
that track. I thought Slime You Out was okay. SZA carried, but still, one or two of those on a very solid 14 to 15 track project. You sold me, Drake. I'm back.
Right.
Okay, I'll wear an OVO hoodie for you. And nope, was not a fan of it either.
No.
Again, just very hit or miss with the songs, and I didn't like it. So I was already
Absolutely.
done. I was done essentially.
Yeah.
But then I hear, whoa, Drake is dropping an EP, 7 songs. Ah, whatever, it'll be fine. Wait a minute, The Alchemist, Overcast, Conductor Williams. Oh my god! And this is my fault. I'm tormenting myself because Drake, not to say he's a liar, but sometimes he does fib a little bit. He goes and says, "I haven't rapped this hard since If You're Reading This Is Too Late." I feel like
Yeah.
2015 Drake. Oh my god, Drake, what are you doing to me? You're toying with my emotions. I listened to it, and now I think I might like it a little bit more now,
Okay. Yeah.
but it doesn't. Again, it's my fault. I'm putting such high expectations. It doesn't come close. It really
Right.
doesn't.
I
There's
feel
some.
like it's not one of those things where you're gonna be like, man, Drake is back.
Yeah,
Like
but a lot of people are, to be fair.
yeah, a lot of people are, but I didn't necessarily get that from it, and it sounds like you didn't really either.
Yeah, I mean, Red Button, incredible beat by Overcast.
I
I'll
love the
just put
beats
that
on
away. I love, and the production overall is fantastic. But
Yeah.
you start that one off, and he's got something going, and I'm like, okay, Drake sounds hungry. The lines are all right. I'm expecting a couple more witty ones, but then I hear, "Need to be in my circle like I'm getting graded," and then I
Yeah.
go, but okay, keep going, keep going. They think it's sweet, but I'm not a diabetic patient.
Yeah.
And then I go, "Ugh." And then he's got the more okay, but then okay, that one ends. Story about my brother. Love that one. For the most part, think that one's great. Uh, the shoe fits. A lot of people seem to like that one.
Yeah.
I can't listen
That's
to.
like 6 minutes, right? That one.
I can't listen to a 6-minute Drake track about him talking about his exes anymore. It doesn't hit as it used to. Maybe it's because I used to be younger.
Beat as well for 6 minutes, you know?
Exactly. And listen, again, it's my own fault. He says it at the beginning of the song. Girls talking to me, asking, Drake, why can't you rap like your old ways? I don't know how to anymore. That's all I need to know. Okay, he's being honest with me. That's fine. That song, a lot of people... I mean, I like Wickman a lot, actually. I think Wickman is pretty good.
Wickman was my favorite.
Yeah, Wickman for sure. The Alchemist beat was great atmosphere to it. Now Drake is kind of throwing some... You have the Pusha T diss in there. That's fine. I don't mind when rappers, maybe try to, like, say things that aren't entirely true. Like, saying Pusha T isn't doing numbers. That's definitely not true. But, rap is all about braggadocio. There's a big part of it is, braggadocio, and you gotta strike hard. And that's fine. That's fine with me, no doubt. And... I like that one a lot. Now, this one might get me into a lot of hot water. The J. Cole one.
Oh.
Their chemistry is good, as always. The beat is good. But again, maybe it's just me being, as some say, maybe I'm instinctually trying to hate. I don't know. Maybe I'm a fake Drake fan. But J. Cole's first line is, "And we Lincoln like we freed the slaves."
When I heard that line, I was like, did Drake write that for him? Because that is Drake's current writing style.
Exactly. It's the I think you mentioned before, the Eminem sort of dad rap corniness, and again, J. Cole's verse is good. It's just that one line that throws me off. And Drake is not bad. Again, a song with both of them is not going to be awful. I think First Person Shooter is better, actually, and I really like the sound of that one. But it's just... I was already starting to go downhill on it and not want to love it. I think that line sealed the deal for me. Genuinely. I think that one sealed the deal for me.
It was just a bit of a breaking point kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think probably from memory, I think In the Morning is probably still the best like J. Cole Drake collab.
You're right.
Yeah.
I love that song. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't feeling the Scary Hours 3 project as much as a lot of other people. I gave it a rating on Album of the Year of 50 out of 100, so just like bang in the middle. It's like one of those things where I think it had good production, but Drake's current writing style just doesn't do much for me.
Me neither.
Because I think if people like genuinely feel that it's great writing, of course they're like entitled to feel that way. But for me, I think Drake's best writing is when he's just telling a story and the wordplay just feels like it happens naturally.
Exactly. You bring up an incredible point. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, rather than like every single line is a one-liner dad joke that kind of generally ties into a theme, but it's not, it just doesn't feel that interconnected.
And it almost feels like sometimes he's overly wordy for the sake of it, and that and that's supposed to like replace an actual witty bar. For example, that 6ix9ine bar where he's like, rapper like the sex position. Like, just because because it's like that kind of like, it's like he's doing that reference, right? Oh, we're immediately gonna think of 6ix9ine. Oh, I get it. But it just kind of makes it sound like he's not. I'm sorry, you're not to be disrespectful to Drake, but you're not Aesop Rock. You can't hit me with those multiple this vernacular that's absolutely alien like, because I know that you're mainly just doing it either for shock value or because you're kind of doing that. You see, it went over your head, right? But it doesn't.
I did find that bar funny, but I do absolutely get where you're coming from with it. Yeah. And like for me, I think an example I pointed to in my quick little review that I posted on Album of the Year, I pointed out this, I think it's the second verse of From Time, From Nothing Was the Same.
Yeah.
Amazing storytelling on that, beautifully written. That to me is what great Drake writing is, not one-liner that ties into this overall theme about women or blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel like just a smooth verse that flows together nice is a way better indication of good writing from Drake than he has these constant one-liners,
Yeah. Well, it seems
we went on that point for a bit, but
no, I mean, it seems that I'm going to be on that list with you, so we're going to have to band together.
Of course.
When I go up to Canada, I'm going to be maybe have the hoodie over my head, just now.
He's controlling Toronto's underworld. Just wear the OVO hoodie so they think you're one of the team.
I will say his Jordans, that Jordan collab is nice. I might have to pull up those.
I don't think I've actually seen them.
It's like all white. There's a little bit of gold. It's nice. Like I mentioned, that close friend of mine who put me on to Drake. I think he still owns a pair. He used to.
Oh, I see them.
I love those. So maybe if if you know the YouTube check clears, it doesn't bounce.
Of course, yeah.
But I'm glad that we brought up how we listen to albums and how we sort of, you know, see what we like already off first listen, what we don't like, because it ties directly into what I was going to ask you afterwards, which is when you're listening to an album, what is that process like? Like, what are you looking out for that excites you, and what are you already predisposed to dislike because of just a pet peeve or, you know, preconceived notions about an artist, or maybe just some things in rap in general that already kind of turn you off?
It's kind of interesting because I do think a first listen sort of like on camera for stream, for example, versus just listening in my own time is slightly different. Like those are two different circumstances, you know, and they don't majorly affect the way that my overall opinion comes out. It's just a slightly different way to take in the music, right? But when I'm listening on my own, I think usually sort of like the first listen is one where I try to not go in with many expectations, and I've said this in my reactions before. I think the second listen to an album is sort of like quote unquote the true first listen, because the first listen that you actually have is where you don't know what to expect at all. You go in, you just see how everything sounds. When you come back for that second listen, you have a general idea of how everything's going to sound and how every track is going to sound, and then you can focus in on the specifics and what you like about it and what you don't like. But as for anything, I'm sort of like predisposed to not loving straight away. I guess it's sort of dependent on the artist, you know, because there's something that one artist could do that I really like it when they do it, but then when another artist does it, it just doesn't quite hit in the same way.
And that's the toughest to explain, I think.
Because
that you don't want to be. That happens to me a lot, especially with lyrics. Like I mentioned Danny Brown before. Danny Brown could get away with a lot of just like absurd lines, but because maybe it's because I'm already such a big Danny Brown fan, I can tell when he's doing the voice, like he's kind of being tongue in cheek, right?
You can tell. That's Danny Brown could pull off the, you know, rapper named after the Sex Position.
Yeah,
he does it with that.
And again, that's where I have to be honest with myself. Yeah, if he said it, I'd be like, wow, Danny Brown, GOAT, hilarious. But
I think that's definitely something where, again, being a reviewer and somebody that does, you know, still read my comments to this day, I see a lot of what other people, you know, have to say about my opinions and stuff like that. And that's another thing that people bring up. They'll say like, oh, you would like this if this artist did it. And I think to myself, well, that's completely different though, because who an artist is and their personality and the way they deliver certain things, that really matters, and it's integral to how certain stuff comes off. So I might not like it if Drake is rapping over a horrorcore style beat, but then
that'd be interesting.
Like, but then there's someone else like, you know, Eminem who could pull it off a bit better. It's like, but then if I say that, someone will be like, oh, so you like it when Eminem does it, but not when Drake does it? That sounds like you hate anything Drake does.
That's wow. That criticism, sometimes you just got, I mean, I've been hit with that sometimes before. You got to take it in stride. You just
for sure. So it's one of those things where it really is dependent on the artist and what I expect from them. I don't necessarily think there's much stuff though that across the board I would dislike just in music, you know?
Got it. But usually what's something that when you're listening to something or an album, listening to an album, you immediately, once you hear it, or maybe it's like a witty line or a specific style of production, that you're already like, okay, I think I might like this one. Like I'm going to go into this one with a more positive like outlook on it.
I do love if you have like a nice, like you're building a nice atmospheric sound straight from the first track. That's something that gets me hooked in straight away. I love I just love beautiful sounding like synths, and if you throw in some nice dramatic strings in there and just really build up this nice grand feeling, that's something from the first track where I'm like, all right, I'm hooked now. I'm ready to see where this goes, you know?
No, so, I agree for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I'm a big fan of, for example, Quadeka's music. I feel like recently, especially with his last couple albums, he's been very good at, you know, building up an atmosphere and certain like soundscapes with his music that I think are really impressive. And yeah, if something can just have a certain sounds to it that just kind of trigger like an emotional feeling in you straight away, that's something that I think is really impressive and something that I just love instantly.
Yeah, so you like when Quedeca does it, but not when NF does it. Come on.
Yeah, of course. You know, and they both use strings. It's the same.
Yeah, come on,
You know?
man. Seriously. Well, I'll say for me, I'm very big on cadence. Like, recently, an artist that's kind of like gone up my like favorite rappers ever has been Redman. Anytime I listen to a Redman verse, the way he just delivers a line and like how he spaces it out properly and just that kind of like rhythm to his voice, I don't know what it is about it, but it's like I've never listened to a Redman verse and gone, wow, that was whack, or I didn't like that. I didn't like that one as much, just solely off his voice and what he's able to do with it.
Man, I need to listen to more of Redman's music because I've never actually listened to a full album from him, but I've heard like features here and there, and he does have this very like, it's sort of like an animated kind of delivery style, but you can still take him seriously, you know. Like, it's very interesting to me, so I need to check out more. Of his stuff,
his verse on College Park recently. Then again, showing my logic bias here, I thought it was very solid verse from him.
Yeah, for sure. Man.
And he got a little more personal on that one too, which I did appreciate.
Yeah, do you have any specific like albums or anything you would recommend?
Oh, that the first three like that trilogy, or not trilogy, but that album run at first. So you have I forgot the first one, but the album covers where he has the hands up and they're like bloody. But
the album?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What? Then you have There Is a Dark Side where he's doing the Funkadelic Maggot Brain homage in the album cover. But
that cover looks great. Yeah, like I've seen the covers. Like I have them saved on my phone. I've just never like went through them.
That happens to me a lot. With recently, I've been getting into more like slacker rock. So I've gone to the Saints a lot, but I'm listening to a lot more Liz Phair. She's super good. But I love to download an album and then not listen to the whole thing. It's like my biggest sin as a listener. But personally for me, Muddy Waters is perfect. That's the one where he's like, I think you might have seen he has the beanie and he has his feet up on the table. I love that album.
CDTV style. Like,
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, sometimes he's imitation's the highest form of flattery, so that's why he did that.
Of course, yeah.
So definitely
need to.
Yeah, check those out. They're great.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to, man.
And then switching over to in retrospect, when you're looking at an album that you've already listened to, I mentioned before, as a Logic fan, I was very happy to see that you kind of had a change of heart with No Pressure.
Yeah.
Because I was on Twitter, X. Your first couple posts were, wasn't really feeling this one, and I was devastated. I know, again, it didn't alter my opinion on it, but as someone who really does, take what you say seriously and see it as like another valid source of criticism, I was like, wow, Fantano likes this? But CDTV doesn't? What?
Right.
So I was kind of shocked, but you sort of came around to it, and your video on it was very good, because you sort of had that initial listen, and then how you feel, on the second one or later on, and I think it's a very good way of showing how you were feeling at first, but then what changed about it, and what things you liked more about it, or things that still stayed the same. I thought that was very cool. So, has that happened to you before with other albums since, that maybe No Pressure or before, where you've listened to an album in hindsight and gone, wow, this was much better than I remember, or vice versa, this was worse than I kind of originally thought?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, No Pressure is one of the, the only ones I've really made a video on. I'm really happy I didn't delete the recordings of that reaction as soon as I was done, or else I wouldn't have been able to do it that way.
Yeah, no receipts,
Yeah, exactly. Because the second I finished that reaction, I was like, man, I don't know if that actually reflects how I was feeling,
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I was just like, okay, instant reaction, just gonna go to Twitter and tweet, So, but it's happened before with one of the first albums I remember it happening with. Is actually Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar.
No way.
The first time, I did not like Kendrick at first. I found his, he's got like all the different like vocal styles.
Yeah, the inflections that he does. Yeah.
But at first I found a lot of his more like nasally delivery styles annoying at first. And also, I think when I was younger, I just didn't really grasp a lot of the nuance to it.
Yeah.
But so when I first tried to listen to Good Kid, Mad City, I probably turned it off after like Bish Don't Come Out, probably.
What?
Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, I get that is a very one. That is one where he does use the voice a lot more. I mean, the chorus,
into, like,
yeah,
nasally type of thing. So I just like never really gave it a chance and this is like, you know, when I was like a lot younger, still in high school, or like maybe early middle teenager years.
Yeah.
And then I think I remember just over time hearing Swimming Pools on the radio, and that is one of his more commercially friendly songs from a sound perspective. And I was like, hold on, okay, there's kind of something here. I'm kind of liking how that sounds. It's got a catchy hook and everything. I love the T minus beat with the you know, the deep synth line and everything. Again, it's got those like just nice synths that really gripped me. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this album a chance. Listened the whole way through. Thought it was one of the greatest albums I've ever heard. So Good Kid, Mad City was one of those ones. Like I came back to it a year or two after just not giving it a chance, and absolutely loved it.
You're not going to hear me disagree with you on that. 1000%. I mean, I'm still someone who will say To Pimp a Butterfly is like slightly better, but even more from a standpoint of like the actual. They're two different concepts, but
absolutely,
with Good Kid, Mad City, you have that more personal, like straight up. This is my, how I was living at the time, and how my youth has affected me now. And then To Pimp a Butterfly, he's going with more concepts of the industry and systems, in the United States. But I think Good Kid, Mad City, I have more of a. I wouldn't say fondness because I replay To Pimp a Butterfly a lot, but Good Kid, Mad City has. I think maybe I replay some songs specifically more, like Compton. I listen to that one a lot because everything about it is perfect. The beat is phenomenal. It's so cinematic, yeah. And then that, I mean, obviously, Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst is phenomenal. Art of Peer Pressure I've mentioned before. And you just have also other tracks that are just Kendrick, flexing a little bit lyrically, showing how good he is, with Backseat Freestyle being one of them. So, you're right. You're not going to hear me disagreeing with you on that one.
Yeah. And one thing I specifically love about Compton, because correct me if I'm wrong here, but that's like the last track on the non-deluxe version of the album.
Yeah.
And like I remember some people at first saying it didn't really feel like it fits in, but it's one you can just view as sort of like the end credits sort of like the album.
I think that's what it does perfectly.
Right,
yeah,
that beautiful, like, just cinematic sound. It's just such a nice track to listen to, and so yeah, that was definitely one of those albums for me. I would say personally, like I think. Both Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly are incredible, and To Pimp a Butterfly has like a wider scope in terms of like just the music on there, the different sort of like genres and subgenres that it touches on, and the scope of what it's talking about. But Good Kid, Mad City, I think will always be my personal favorite. Like I put that as Kendrick's best subjectively.
Yeah.
Because I just love that personal storytelling focus and the more straight up hip hop sound of it.
Yeah, no.
It just sounds hungry on there too.
Again, it's you're comparing like a masterpiece with another masterpiece. I understand, and sometimes who knows if it'll change for me in the future. It's like it's a toss up. Occasionally, it could be a toss up. So
I think it just happen, just hearing albums at different like phases of your life, or just even listening to an album a year later and giving it another chance, it can just hit differently. So. Yeah, it's definitely that's the main one that comes to my mind though. With that question, just Good Kid, Mad City was one that grew on me over time.
Are there any albums you are kind of maybe scared to re-listen to because you feel like you'll dislike it in your current state of where you're at musically?
This is a solid question actually, because this is one I could tie back into Kendrick actually. Now, it's not an album that I loved straight away. I have listened to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers once.
Yeah.
And it was for my reaction to it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a Logic, no pressure type of thing where I reacted and I wasn't really feeling it. So, and by the end of the reaction, I just felt kind of dejected because, it's a Kendrick Lamar album. I was like so hyped. And by the end, I was just so dejected. I was like, I'm not going to upload this. And, it's one that I don't know like if I'm gonna feel differently about it if I go back to it. And for some weird reason, even though a lot of people seem to really love it, I just don't have any sort of like drive to go back to that album. And
Yeah.
I feel like I should give it another chance because there was stuff I loved on there. I thought United in Grief was an amazing opening track. I think Father Time
Oh,
was
with
one of the I thought
Sampha.
that
Yeah.
was incredible.
Great
Like
song.
there's some tracks on there that really stood out to me, but just as an overall package, I thought it missed the mark for me. Um, Another thing I don't like some people say it's stupid to complain about, but I think the Kodak Black inclusion was a little weird, with especially with some of the big themes of the album
Yeah.
and sort of his past. It just feels a
Yeah.
little weird to me.
Yeah. Kind of
But
conflicting a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's one that I am a little bit worried to revisit it because I'm like maybe I'm not gonna like it, or maybe I'm gonna really love it this time around and wish that I talked about it sooner. So I
Wow.
it's one of those ones that I'm just kind of
So
anxious
a
to.
lose-lose situation for you.
Yeah, not sure if I should go back to that. But how did you feel about that one?
Oh, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Well, the funny thing about the day that it was, I was gonna obviously listen to it at midnight, so that Thursday night, but I was so tired. I do remember being so exhausted that day that I told myself, okay, I'm gonna take a nap. I'm gonna
Yeah,
wake up before it releases. I still do, but I wake up still exhausted. So
you're right.
I still listen to it on my AirPods. Maybe not the best way, but
Yeah,
I'm still digesting the album.
for sure.
But I feel myself kind of like falling asleep, not because of the album, but because of where I was, like just being exhausted from. I think I think I either had school and work that day or one of the two. So I do get to the end of the track. I mean to the end of the album, but I didn't necessarily love it. Maybe there were some things about it that I think it was some of the more commercial songs. Like I'm still not a big fan of Die Hard
Yeah,
and
yeah, me too.
Purple Heart's incredible Ghostface Killah feature.
Yeah,
A little bit wasted maybe for that song. I think
from
you could
what
have
I
used it for another
remember,
one. Yeah.
like saying in my my reaction to it is I don't like the sort of like commercial Damn style of singing. Some of the
Yeah.
singing that he does on Damn, he did
Yeah.
that on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and
Yeah.
I don't like that sound for Kendrick.
Yeah.
That's one of the inflections I'm not a big fan of. But so it wasn't something that like hit for you straight away either.
Yes. However, I did listen to it the day after, and I think that's where you mentioned that second listen is truly the first listen, because some of the songs that I didn't like at first, I was enamored by them. Count Me Out specifically, I think that's
All
one of the
right.
best. Like where Kendrick's doing a more melodic kind of delivery and like rapping style. I loved it. I think it's the beat. I
Okay.
don't know what it is about the production, like the background vocals that they're very like like it's almost like like it feels a little gospel, but it's like they're singing in harmony and it's like a choir, and then you have just the sort of I think it's just really catchy also, super
Yeah.
catchy, and I love the flows like just the way he's letting off these thoughts about where he's at currently in his life. I thought was great, and then the breakdown near the end where it's like just straight up more singing and it feels a little more upbeat as the more slow start. I love that song. I think N95 is still a great single, personally.
Right. I didn't like that one off my first listen, but at one point randomly, like this is a bit of a tangent, but randomly some point last year or maybe earlier this year, I just got this random uh fascination with like American sports for some
Yeah,
reason. And it was literally because sometimes my brain just takes me wherever it wants to go because I was scripting a Purley's rap lyrics video, I think, and there was
yeah,
one that related to basketball. And when I was researching basketball a little bit, I was like, oh, this seems kind of interesting. So I impulse bought NBA 2K23 and for some reason the 2023 Madden game.
yeah.
And I think it's in the 2023 Madden game. They have N95 as one of the songs on the soundtrack for that. And I heard it while I was playing the game. I was like, this actually goes kind of hard.
Yeah, right. And look, I wish I could tell you I used to love playing those games. I still actually watch. Basketball is a sport I played for a long time, and
All right.
I'm in a fantasy football league at the moment,
Right.
so I do have a lot more stake in it. But I haven't purchased like an EA or NBA 2K game since like 2019.
I can't blame you because I do know it's going to be one of those things where it's
Yeah.
basically the same thing with the
Yeah.
new rosters every
Yeah.
year. But
Yeah.
it's just because like that was the first time I'd ever really bought them. It
Yeah,
was
of
like a
course.
entirely new experience to me. What about the? Do you buy the WWE 2K games?
Oh my god. You know what? I'm a hypocrite because ever since 22 came out, I love playing these games.
Yeah,
But
you
there's
got 23 as
also
well?
yes, of course.
Yeah,
You have it as well?
Yep.
Oh, we're gonna
Yeah.
have to run that one up. But
Absolutely, man.
yeah, I actually haven't played online at all because I have no one else to play it with online. So I'd rather just kind of wait to see if it's someone I know it'll be more of a fair matchup, and also those online servers, they could be a little hit or
Yeah.
miss. But
Yeah.
also the appeal for that one more to me is I can just live out my wrestling fantasy bookings on the game.
Yeah,
So
like
it feels
universal and everything. So
yeah, and I can still put people through tables and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like still fun. And I have like 300 hours on that game.
Oh wow, yeah.
Just
there you
because it's
go,
like
man.
relaxing. It's weird. Like I'll be like
it's
I'll have a
fun.
YouTube video on my on my computer, on my PC. Whatever it is, and it's probably Todd in the Shadows at the moment because I do like a lot of his
Nice, yeah.
videos. And then I'll just be like looking at my TV, look back here, look at my TV, or even I might be doing homework and I'll do it. But regardless,
Yeah, there you go.
I think you should re-listen to N95 like on the album. It's great, but I think we can agree that. Well, do you think it's better than Damn? Let's get it off right here.
See, this is one of the things where I think I need a second listen.
A second
to know
listen.
for sure.
Yeah.
Because right now, as it currently stands, with a sort of, I guess I'll say, slightly uninformed opinion of Mr. Morale, because I did only have that one listen where I was quite disappointed that I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I would currently have Damn higher.
Yeah.
But I do need to listen to Mr. Morale to know for sure, because I remember my first listen to Damn. I don't feel that way now, but my first listen to it, I thought it was Kendrick's best project, surprisingly. Now, I definitely not, but
Yeah.
it's solid. It's solid.
What's your top three?
From Damn,
Or no, well,
Ooh.
from Damn and then his discography.
or just his discography.
Well, you can do Damn first, because Damn,
Okay.
I know we're pretty. I think both of us have listened to it enough to where
I'm
we
just
can.
gonna track list up here just to make sure I don't sort of like miss anything.
Yeah, of course.
Because looking at the track names, I'll instantly just
Yeah,
hear them in my head, So I would go for Feel. I think Feel has to be top three. I love that.
I have it number one. So
Number one.
Yeah,
There
I
we
have it
go.
number one.
Okay. That lines up pretty good. See, this is looking at this track list. That is really solid, right?
Yeah, it's not. I think it's Kendrick. I don't think is capable of making a bad album, and that's just me, my bias, and thinking he's arguably the greatest rapper of the 2010s. But I don't think I've ever listened, or I will, hopefully not, knock on wood, listen to a Kendrick album and go, "Wow, that might have actually sucked." Like I don't think he doesn't have a revival in him, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely nothing on sort of revival level.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I think Damn. I don't know if you will agree. The weakest parts of that album are the more, commercial sounding songs.
Agreed.
I still like Humble, and I still even like DNA, but there are some aspects where I'm like, maybe the sound hasn't really aged all too well.
Yeah, Humble to me is one that I felt straight away was kind of like an overhyped track. Not in the sense that like I think people are gassing it up too much. It's just that my opinion of it doesn't really align with how much a lot of other people seem to love it. I think Humble is fine, but I don't really like. It's not one I come back to all that much.
Yeah,
I don't like the sort of like blunt piano type of sound. Like doesn't really hit for me. But yeah, I think if I'm going for top three, it probably Feel, Fear, and Duckworth. I think.
God, we have the same top three.
Is the same.
Yeah.
The same. Yeah. Okay.
And then I'd probably put Triple X. I still really love how that one sounds. So that's right there. Yeah. And I don't think Loyalty is one of the best, but my girlfriend loves that song, and we played it in the car a good amount of times. So, a Rihanna and Kendrick song is pretty monumental, especially knowing that we're not going to get any new Rihanna music for a while, or maybe we will. I don't know, but still, I still like that track a lot. Yeah, I think that would be. Well, I mean, there you go. I mean, if we're not already proving the point that great minds think alike. I mean,
absolutely, man, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, I think Damn is pretty solid overall. I know a lot of people were mad at like Fantano for the 7 rating for Damn.
I would agree.
Honestly, I'd put it around a 7.
Yeah,
like that's where I'd have it roughly.
Yeah, And
Yeah.
for your top 3 Kendrick projects, I'm assuming. I'll say the list. I'm gonna go first. I know I'm. Look, well, I mean, it's like assume what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
I know this is kind of like interviewee, or no, interviewer sin number 1. But I'm just gonna guess what you're gonna say here. You're gonna go. You're gonna go number 1, Good Kid, Mad City. Number 2, T-Pab. And I think you might give Section 80 number 3.
Let me look at the little discography right
Or
here.
or if you're a big Untitled Unmastered fan.
I would say that you nailed it first time around right there.
Yeah, because
You nailed it.
Because
it's Purple Butterfly, Section 8.
yeah, because for me, for my list, I would just flip 1 and 2, and then 3. I think Section 80 has held up,
It's
extremely well in my
really
opinion.
good, yeah.
Aside from her Vices, the makeup one with the really bad. No disrespect to that feature, it doesn't sound good anymore. Maybe in 2011 it had more of an appeal. That one, and then maybe
I still kind of like that track though, but
his verses are still
do
good.
Understand like the criticisms of the hook.
Yeah,
sounds sort of like 2011 boy band style.
Yeah,
yeah.
But for the most part, that track list is. I mean, come on, you have
ADHD.
ADHD. Right. Ronald Reagan era is like
fantastic
on another level. You have what's the one with let me put it up. It's the one with GLC.
I know what you're talking about.
That has like one of my favorite Kendrick bars. Oh, Poe Man's Dreams. It has he says stand for something or fall for anything, and you're looking like 2 left feet at the skating rink. Oh my god, it's an incredible song. So yeah, no, for sure, solid top 3.
That's the like super like chill sounding one as well, right?
Yeah,
it's just a beautiful listen. You got Rigor Mortis. I really like Blow My High.
Yeah.
Such a good track list, man.
Yeah, that one
is great.
I'm glad that one is like. I know some people have put it up higher on their list, but I do think it was forgotten for a while in terms of how good of a debut that album is.
Yeah, a lot of people. I remember. I think I've said it before, maybe on Twitter or whatever, but definitely a lot of people kind of disagree with it when I say I would have like Section 80 over Damn, but I definitely would. I definitely would.
No doubt about it for me. Yeah. Well, now that we're kind of going into some of our more personal opinions and kind of how we feel about current artists or artists from the past, I think it's time we go into the segment of No Banana Peels I like to call One and Done. So I'm going to give you an artist, a part of the hip-hop genre or something entirely different, and you have one word to describe how you feel about that thing. I'm going to give you, it's about 7. So
okay,
let's start off right off the bat since we've spoken about him a little bit. Eminem.
Legendary.
Okay. Cadence.
Cadence?
Yeah.
Okay. Vital.
Griselda.
Grimy.
Yeah. Sampling.
So many different words I could pick here. But I go with staple. It's a staple of hip hop.
Drake. Sorry about that. I kind of put you in a corner here. We're never beating the Drake allegations. The Drake hater, but maybe.
Divisive.
That's actually a perfect way of describing that. I don't know if you'll expect this one. Benny X.
Divisive.
And this one, I mean, I've always wanted to know this. Maybe you'll give me your just straight up direct answer. Greatest of all time.
Oof. Eminem.
Oh, we got him.
I think, if I could sum that up in more words, I just think from a personal perspective and just being the man that introduced me to hip hop, you know.
Yeah.
I think he has just an iconic discography, but I would absolutely accept people saying that they disagree with that for sure.
Yeah.
But I just think from a personal standpoint.
And listen, I've gone back to, that first 3-album run to see if maybe I wouldn't like it as much because of what he's been putting out recently. definitely not the case. I mean, 1999 to 2002 Eminem is still an legendary run for a rapper, and yeah, what he was doing at the time was still, I mean, it inspired artists that maybe we don't love, but I mean, if you really think about it, there have been a lot of current, great MCs who have also cited Eminem as an influence that are very good. I mean, we still have J. Cole. I'm pretty sure. I mean, Logic has kind of, well, I'll say it, since 2020, back on the high horse, has mentioned him. I think Kendrick is one of, I mean, Love Game. It's a great song.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. I'm sure Jid, I think maybe Jid has mentioned it before in the past.
Probably, yeah.
So,
and I think that greatest of all time discussion is definitely a very subjective one, because I think everybody you ask will have a sort of different criteria for it,
Yeah. Well, I'll say Black Thought then, right at the bat.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I could see debates for why Nas, for example, could be one of the best of all time.
He's number 2 for me. Probably my favorite artist of all time, though. But in terms of when I look at a rapper, like who I look at as the prototype, when I think about how many how much they've done, not just in Black Thought, if we're looking at through him, his discography with the Roots, features, just the ability to stay fresh with his lyricism and wordplay, especially now. I think he's on another level, another planet. And then obviously the 10-minute Funk Flex freestyle. So.
Oh yeah, legendary stuff right there, man.
So definitely for me, but I agree with you. It is so subjective of a question that it just comes down to what your preference is.
Yeah. Like, I'm definitely not saying that Eminem is like the objective greatest of all time, just on a subjective level. But Kendrick is another artist that I could see people making an argument for, and
definitely,
I think that's valid,
Yeah. Tom McDonald.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's the dark horse pick. No one wants to admit it.
He's the GOAT, the grifter of all time.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's genius, by the way. You got to trademark that before he does.
I have to, yeah. He's gonna put that on his $100 merch.
$100. I didn't even know that.
You legit. Sometimes, bro, I find him like a hilarious artist to check in on what he's doing. You
seem to be a little bit of a historian.
In a way,
I think you've definitely caught up with him the most in terms of how current, rap critics like yourself and Brad Taste as well. I'll give him that because he does check up on him and what Adam Calhoun are up to. So both of you guys have definitely done what all of us don't want to do. So we need, two heroes to make the sacrifice, and you guys have done that. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the perspective that I kind of approach those videos from. Yeah, is listening to this music and talking about it. So you don't have to. You don't have to go listen for yourself. Because again, another thing people have definitely said before is like one or two people, honestly, not that many, but they've been like, you talk about Tom McDonald all the time or too much, and it's like. But it's such there's so much entertainment value in talking about how bad a lot of his stuff is, And I'm just looking to have fun while talking about stuff,
I mean, if 6ix9ine was still putting out music consistently too, I'm sure that would be another person. And you've already done videos and you've done reactions to him too,
Most recent album that he dropped this year, Leyenda Viva, his his Latin album.
I refuse to listen to it, but
that's a solid choice.
as a proud Hispanic, I will not even touch that record. I'll take my Bad Bunny and my you
have a much better time with that than 6ix9ine's album, trust me.
But actually, since I did mention sampling in the One and Done. Actually, no, wait, really quick. Favorite artist from Griselda, because I have always wanted to ask you that. Okay, perfect. I would say Conway the Machine. I think he has the best solo album. God Don't Make Mistakes is phenomenal. Yeah. I love that record. Yeah, it's man, I've got from I did a video on listening to every DJ Khaled album. Yeah, and when I hear I think God did like that just goes straight to my head. But yeah, God Don't Make Mistakes is another very good album with God in the title. Yeah, but yeah, I think to me, he's just the most exciting to listen to. I think Benny has like just the most
gripping delivery.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
Conway's is very interesting, and I always feel like he has the hardest bars. You know, whenever I'm listening to Conway music, he'll just say something, and I'll be like, "That was so smooth the
Yeah.
way he put that together."
Well, I mean, one I could tell you that I listened to again recently, his verse on Hell on Earth Part 2 on the West Side, not well, HWH, I think it's the side B where it's like the black and white album cover, which I love that
Right,
part of the
yeah.
album. His verse on that, where he does like this whole like college basketball scheme, I think
Right.
was exceptional. Now, who I think can take that spot from him though, me personally,
Who's
I've
that?
listened to a lot of him recently. Rome Streets.
I haven't listened to any of his stuff yet, but I've heard a lot of good things.
I think he does maybe have a chance of becoming a little too repetitive in the way his verses are structured. But there's a bias for me, and there's some things I let slide when I love how a rapper sounds so much. You know, like Action Bronson. I won't deny Action Bronson has a formula for how he spits his lines. But they're so funny to me. They're still so witty. Like, only he can think of that stuff, in my opinion. Like, only he can think of these outrageous, you know, like, recently on the Alchemist EP, the song Vertigo, he goes, and practice various wrestling moves on a leprechaun. Like, only he can say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I still love his verses. So, yeah. I think Rome Streets, if you ever get the chance to check him out, for sure.
I'll need to. I'll definitely need to, yeah. He has that Kiss the Ring album, is it?
Yeah,
Which,
Kiss the Ring. It's
also
great.
happens to be the name of a DJ Khaled album, so yeah.
Again, you're a soldier for that one.
Hey, who knew going into this right here that we'd have so many parallels between DJ Khaled and Griselda?
Yeah. Oh my God. Hey, listen. Who knows? Who knows where the next DJ Khaled curated masterpiece is gonna head into? Maybe he says no more. Yeah, no more dance hall. No more. Let me get Drake and Lil Baby to do a rendition of BG Staying Alive. Yeah. Let me get that Griselda connect. You know,
there we go.
I think that would bring up his stock again. I think that really would make people kind of forget all this memeable stuff. Yeah.
It's not going to happen, I think, because it's not as much.
Never say never. Never say never.
Yeah,
Mr. CDTV, come on.
Yeah, of course.
So, I know I mentioned it before. Well, I was going to get into sampling about your Nostalgia Bait video, a Nostalgia Bait sampling video, which you put out recently, and how, especially this year, it's never been more present as this sort of gimmick that a lot of current mainstream rap songs are using. You mentioned the one that I talk about the most, that DaBaby song where he uses the Devo Whip It sample. Maybe it hits so close for me because I love that song so much that once I heard it, I could not believe it got cleared. But regardless, do you see this sonic trend like dying anytime soon? Or maybe it will continue going forward?
I think it's something that will maybe go on for... it's a good question. It's kind of hard to say because I think it could be one of those trends in hip-hop that maybe goes on for another year or two, and it just it could start to die out the more and more that people get sick of it. Because, I mean, people have done that before with the whole Nostalgia Bait sampling thing. Like, it's happened, like, a lot.
It's definitely not something that's new to hip-hop. And it's been done very well in the past, though, which I know you're thinking about working on one where it's been done correctly.
I actually have a list already for it. Yeah.
So I'm excited to watch that one for the audience out there.
Yeah. So I mean, it absolutely has happened. I mean, even you could count "No Love" by Eminem and Lil Wayne as a Nostalgia Bait sample song. But it does feel like it's became really prominent the last year or two in just sampling really significant portions of popular older songs.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that I feel like eventually people do start to get sick of this stuff. The more and more people do it, and the more formulaic it feels.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that will maybe burn out after a year or two.
Is this your least favorite trend in hip hop that you've like been a part of, or just have been aware of, or is there one that you kind of are more familiar with, or have done more research on that you feel is like worse than this one? Or been, done worse than this one. I know you've mentioned before that era of DJ Mustard beats that you aren't particularly a fan of, which I kind of agree with that one. For me, I'll give you one, maybe it like jogs your memory. after Drake did Hotline Bling, which he did, as much as I love that song, he did already take that from Dram's I Like to Cha Cha, which is...
Okay,
So
yeah.
then you kind of have this thing where a lot of mainstream rappers have to have a dancehall track. Even Jack
Yeah.
Harlow on Come Home the Kids Miss You
God,
had
I
one
got
on that
shot.
album. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so there's that. There's also it's interesting. The mustard beats, I'd almost compare that to the sampling thing a little bit, where it's like a production quirk that just makes a quick hit, you know?
Yeah.
Also, another thing that's really common at the moment is drill beats.
Yeah.
Just any artist hopping over it, even if it doesn't fit for them.
Yeah.
A lot of the drill beats go hard, but again, it's quite similar drum patterns a lot of the time. Definitely, I wouldn't say that's as bad as the whole nostalgia bait thing, though. Another one for me is a trend for a lot of people towards the sort of Detroit style of rap with the more like beat kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, that specific style of production. To me, that's just something that doesn't really click with me. There's artists like Babytron, for example, and he seems like a kind of like funny guy. You know, he's got interesting bars, stuff like that. But I can't see it carrying like a 29-track album or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's like it just feels like he has way too many tracks on his projects. For me, I think that is, you know, we've already touched on it, so it's not the most exciting answer, but like the worst trend for me would just be bloated albums in the rap industry.
I think it's definitely does the most damage.
That's the most damage, exactly.
And
whereas like
look, sorry,
the nostalgia sample thing, it's more rare between artists. They'll do it a few times maybe, and then the rest of their stuff is, you know, more original. But with the bloated albums thing, like that's a consistent trend between so many artists.
Definitely. And well, to kind of retract what I said, I think when it comes to the nostalgia bait samples, it can be dangerous though, because it does give sampling a bad name, in my opinion. Because there's been so many conversations I've had with not just people in my family, but you know, maybe music listeners who aren't particularly fans of hip hop, who their number one criticism will always be, oh, they're just taking from someone else. When it's like a song that samples another. And yeah, when you listen to that DaBaby track or that Coi Leray track that very lazily samples another song, it only fuels the fire. And I do think that hopefully that does die down, just so that credibility of so many great producers out there who utilize samples like exceptionally, like they don't kind of get shafted because of it.
I think that's a good point. That does sort of like branch outside of hip hop to people who don't necessarily listen to it. They could be like, "Oh, this is what rap is nowadays. This is what sampling is. Like, you're just taking an existing song and writing off its coattails, you know." But and yeah, those songs are really popular at the moment. They do make for hit songs, so you know people will be hearing those generally. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of examples where, you know, like NLE Choppa, It's Getting Hot is just a remake of Hot in Here, essentially.
I didn't even know that song came out. When I saw that on your list, I was dumbfounded by that.
Yeah, right?
So blatant. It's so blatant.
So I think you made a great point there about how that nostalgia bait sampling thing can stretch outside of hip-hop if people are hearing those songs like on the radio or whatever. Whereas the bloated albums thing is more for a bad thing for hip hop listeners specifically, you know.
But I do like Babytron. I will be clear.
Oh,
I think he could make a great project, because I am someone who does like when a rapper, because I do think he's very talented, and some of his similes are hilarious.
He does have like that. He does have very like creative wordplay.
Yeah.
It's just I think overall that whole like Detroit style doesn't appeal to me as like it can get
repetitive for sure. Yeah. Well, since we're talking about artists who have been around for just a little bit, you know, we mentioned Babytron, NLE Choppa's been around for a while, and we kind of talked about Uzi and Cardi, and they're still not in their infancy as artists, but they're starting to roll over to that veteran period, but they're stuck in the middle, right? And many hip-hop fans as of late, and even rappers themselves, have expressed concern about who will carry on the torch in the next generation of the genre. Some even go as far to say that the 2010s will be the last decade that has rap superstars with longevity. Are you high on any artists currently that you believe will continue to progress the genre?
You know,
while
interesting.
simultaneously having a loyal fan base, like a very like they will stick with them even if what they're making isn't commercial.
Right. Oh, see, before that part, I was thinking a little bit. Again, what we discussed earlier, I could see like a promising future for an artist like Yeet.
Yeah.
Again, his stuff kind of bridges the gap a little bit between being commercial, but definitely not something you would hear on the radio.
Yeah.
At least I don't think so. And to me, the way I've described him before is he's almost like a futuristic version of Young Thug in a way, like a sci-fi version of Young Thug, you know, because he has the cadence and the delivery switches and all the different flows and all that kind of stuff. I see him hopefully doing big things in the next few years and just becoming a bigger artist and maybe even being able to move the genre forward in certain ways. Outside of him, though, I'm not too sure because I just feel like right now we're currently going through a phase of a bunch of new artists cropping up.
Yeah.
And it's just going to kind of take time to see who fades away and who goes on to have that rapid improvement and put out something amazing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's hard to say.
I'll put all my chips down, which I've said before, that phrase, but I'll use it again for Red Veil. I do think Red Veil is an artist that you can bank on, for sure.
Okay, yeah, Red Veil is a solid pick as well,
but
actually.
The thing about hip-hop as well is that you can blow up, or I'll be fair, in a lot of, just musical genres, that you can, blow up even later in your life. So, for example, I could say Jid, even though Jid is in his early 30s, he's not super young. So, I mentioned Red Veil because he is still pretty young and, has a lot to go. Or I can definitely say someone like JPEG Mafia, who is doing, things in hip hop where he's making songs that can be mainstream a little bit with like the trap production he includes, but then these super wild samples are having these like drum and bass elements. Like I look at a song like Fentanyl Tester off Scaring the Host.
Yeah,
and
that's insane.
My girlfriend loves that song.
Oh really?
And when I listened to it off like first listen, I was like, this beat is so wacky, but it's almost so like, like high energy and, has that like, Kellis milkshake sample that I do feel like, listen, you can get the aux passed to you, plug it into your phone. There is a chance you do not scare off anyone.
Right.
It worked, it worked with my girlfriend. Who knows? I actually mentioned that in my review for the album that I put up on my Medium. There are a lot of production choices on Scaring the Hose that I don't even think are super underground that it can't appeal to a larger audience. So I kind of do have a lot of hope in JPEG, who can continue making his style and I'll love his music, but maybe can break through a little bit. Especially with TikTok now, you have a lot more outlets for that.
Oh yeah. I think I've described JPEG Mafia before as being a little bit of one of the more, I don't know if this is necessarily the right word to use for his music, but one of the more accessible experimental rap artists.
No, that's totally fair. He's experimental, but still just that right amount of accessible.
Yeah, like he's still got a lot of. There's a lot of stuff in his music that's still catchy. He still has melody in there sometimes. Yeah. He does singing stuff a lot, and just sometimes he could have super intense rapping deliveries that just grip you straight away. He's got some funny bars in there. And the production across like all of Scaring the Hose is just absolutely insane. Yeah, so it's amazing.
I'd say him. I also do really like, aside from Babytron, I am a Yeet fan. And Z Loopers, I do see Z Loopers.
Okay, yeah.
I know him, and he's part of Daniel Brown's label. I forgot the name of his last record. It's the he has like it was like a Van Gogh thing where his like ear was cut off. I think that was that homage in the album cover. There were some songs in there where I could definitely see it being done, like executed even better, and still reaching a fairly large audience. But again, these artists I feel like are already growing loyal fan bases, which I think is the most important part of that. Yeah. So I see these guys for sure carrying the torch for the next couple years.
And I think the thing is as well, there's just like because we've got streaming services and everything, and we can listen to absolutely anybody. I mean, like, we know how many different subgenres there are within rap music right now. So like, it's such a like wide-ranging thing to think about. Like, there's so many different areas of hip hop where the torch can be carried by different artists making different styles of music.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
true. Hip hop is a genre that's very lucky in that regard. You can have
Oh
so
yeah.
many different styles, and yet the Grammys still likes to keep it just one genre. But
Of
hey,
course. Yeah.
if I speak, I am in big trouble. Well, actually, I forgot to mention one other artist. This is an MC that I truly do believe in that can save hip hop, but he's kind of been off the grid for a while. AM JACE, if you haven't. I love 19, great song. Godzilla.
Thank you.
Thankful, I think, was the last one he released. But
Yeah.
he was dropping bangers. I know that no one's heard from him for a while, but I've heard from sources. I'm not going to name them. Close to me that have said that you're kind of like good friends with him, and you're aware of where he's at. He's kind of keeping it still on the down low. But are there any chances, no matter how small those chances are, that he comes back?
There, I am Jace, the sort of triplet of this situation.
Yeah,
has told me that there's a possibility,
yeah.
but we just kind of have to wait and see how things go. We all, me, CDTV, the G, and I am Jace, we all share the same phone. So
Okay,
we all
perfect.
keep our notes on there. That's where I script my videos. That's where I am Jace writes his songs, and he does have probably at least like 10 plus fully written songs on there, and 100 plus ideas for songs or general lines written in there and stuff like that. So there's always something to come back to. He just needs to see how it goes, really.
That has made my day. I'll tell you that much.
There you go.
I'm excited. Aside from this interview, obviously, but
Of course,
that
yeah.
little news for the prodigal son returning. I
He
love
could
it.
be one of those torchbearers, one of the people that carries the
Definitely,
torch.
I see him collabing with. Yeah, he seems like a big, possibly a DJ Khaled collab, but maybe you get some Pharrell.
Ooh, okay,
For a little bit some Pharrell beats. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just
you know?
I'm just speculating.
Of course, yeah. There's always something that could be done there, and I think he's deciding if he ever does come back, if he's gonna go the more serious route with it, or
Yeah.
just have fun and just like mess around and make whatever, just have a good time with it. Maybe not take it too serious.
Sounds great. That seems to be all I have to ask you. It's been an incredible conversation.
Yeah, it's
I'll
been
have to
great.
say it's been great. But before we close out, if you have any controversial takes that you've just been bottling up inside, you just want to blur it out right now. It's a safe space. Music, like any hip hop takes, you kind of just want to get off your chest that you maybe didn't want to say on Twitter/X. You didn't want to put out there, but you kind of just want to do it right now. By all means, I'm giving you the floor.
You know what? I'm gonna check actually in my notes real quick.
Yeah.
Because I have written down certain like opinions for unpopular opinion videos or like hot take videos that I have not put out. So let's see. I'm gonna have a little scroll because I think there could definitely be someone here that don't come to my mind straight away.
No worries.
Let's see. While I'm looking, do you want to share if you have any that you want to?
Yeah, I recently did. I did a TikTok that I did post on X, Twitter, and also put on Instagram where I was ranking. I was in like a like bop your head like J. Cole discography.
Oh yeah,
and it might be controversial amongst a lot of his like core fan base, but I do think Sideline Story is probably my favorite J. Cole album.
Oh, okay.
When I was doing the tier list, I picked For Your Eyes Only over 2014 Forest Hills Drive, which I think is fine. Like some people would agree, but then it came down to Sideline Story and For Your Eyes Only, and I went with Sideline Story. However, I did make it clear in the comments section that it can go either way, because I will agree. Sideline Story, what I love the most about it is that it's a young J. Cole. He's not suffering from what some would call later in his career that like more laid back, a little drowsy kind of delivery. He's still very like excited almost. And I like that. And the production has always been a strong highlight for me. I mean, the beats on Breakdown might be one of my favorite J. Cole songs ever. Can't Get Enough. God's Gift is great. Rise and Shine. Nobody's Perfect. Like, I love those songs.
Yeah.
And even then, he was doing some more interesting conceptual tracks, like on Lost Ones, I think, where he raps from the perspective of, you know, a couple, and he raps from the perspective of the dude in the couple who wants to get an abortion, but then he raps from the woman's perspective of not wanting to get an abortion. And while that is wild, like, that is completely insane, it's a risk that I do really like, because it shows that he's not afraid to do something like that. And in my opinion, I prefer those songs of his over his more, like, which is another reason why I like For Your Eyes Only more, because I think sometimes when J. Cole tries to be more socially conscious, it does come off more as like a diet, and not to be disrespectful, I do really like J. Cole, but it comes off as like a diet Kendrick kind of thing. He doesn't attack the topic or the, you know, like the problem that he wants to address with like the poetic pen that Kendrick has, or, you know, being just poignant. It's either too general or it's like too surface level, in my opinion. I think KOD is a primary example for that. But
KOD one that grew off me over time. For sure. That actually sparked off a few potential hot takes in my mind, actually. So from current opinions, again, maybe I need to go back and revisit it, but I'd have For Your Eyes Only probably towards the bottom of my J. Cole discography ranking. That might be a hot take right there.
Definitely. Amongst the Dreamville. Dreamville. They're just, you know, the Dreamers, I guess.
The Dreamers, yeah. That's one. That
the J. Cole Mafia.
There we go. Yeah. That's one that I haven't revisited in a little while, but just from what I remember, really solid storytelling throughout the project, but just that's one where the sound to me was a bit dry. It just not. It's one of those ones that don't really want to use this word, but I guess I did find it a little bit boring. So I think that's one I need to come back to for sure. But yeah, probably at this current moment, I'd have For Your Eyes Only like towards definitely the lower end of my J. Cole ranking. I would maybe also have the off season at either the number 2 or number 1 spot.
But there, I would definitely might agree with you. I mean, I would agree with you. I think the off season is a very strong J. Cole project. Because again, it kind of goes back to the way I listen to J. Cole, and what I love about him as a rapper is the same traits that I love about Logic. Right? I think they're at their best when they're not trying too hard to, you know, I don't mind, you know, Logic having positive messaging, neither Cole. But when they're trying too hard to put some sort of message, they don't do it with the same level of care that an artist like a Kendrick Lamar would do, or early Big Crit, or Danny Brown when he's speaking on, you know, his drug abuse, or, you know, things of that nature. But they're at their best more when they're being witty. They're, you know, that, like, yes, it's very 90s East Coast braggadocio, but it works.
Yeah, just go back to that, like, sound. It feels, it's an album that, for lack of a better term, it just feels very hip-hop. Know? And I love that. I absolutely love that. Another hot take that maybe sparked off in my mind there, I don't know if it's still a hot take. Maybe it would be, but I never really have, and I still don't really want, or at least think it would be a good idea to have, a J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar collab album.
Wow.
Because for me personally...
that is a hot one, I will say. That is a hot one.
Massive moment, and it would be very cool to hear more collaborations between them, but it's that thing of where I feel like maybe they would complement each other very well, but I do feel like Kendrick might wash J. Cole for a lot of that, maybe, and he would have, again, Kendrick I think is more nuanced when tackling certain subjects, whereas I feel like J. Cole is a bit more on the nose with it, and I don't know how that would combine very well.
You're right. I wouldn't be brave enough to say it. You said it for me. You're right, though. I cannot lie.
That's probably a pretty hot thing. Again, I would like it for how big the moment would be.
Yeah.
And everybody would be talking about it. I think the discussion around it would be very exciting. But my concern would be that, first of all, how can it live up to all the hype that it's had over the years? Yeah. And second of all, just would their chemistry be as good as we think it might be on a whole album?
No, I I agree wholeheartedly. And overall, also, I think nowadays, I think they're so different in how, I think they not just write, but like their songs.
Yeah.
I think J. Cole might be at a more lyrical peak, though, to be fair. But Kendrick, I think now, especially with what he's doing with Baby Keem, is more interested in making music that he feels is more like fun. After Mr. Morale, because Mr. Morale is a very big, like, for lack of a better term, like losing that savior complex that he's like sort of built up over his career, and I think that's like very cathartic. But I mean, I think we're gonna get a full Hillbillies project between him and Keem, and that's just gonna be a bunch of like just bangers, just more like fun bangers. I don't know if J. Cole wants to make that right now in his career, especially the way he's building up the Fall Off, and I think that other project, It's a Boy. Like, I think these are like we're getting to like that final stretch of like a long marathon. I think Cole wants to end strong with those two albums being very just lyrically heavy, and he kind of wants like a Jay-Z Black album kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. More personal, more serious type of stuff. Yeah. And man, this is sparking off the hot takes now. Now that we got it flowing, they're all coming into my head.
You give me one more. Yeah, just give me one more strong one.
Okay, let's go for. Okay, this I don't know if this will be a strong one here, but one thing I thought of there as well is, so these are two tracks that have been compared a little bit with how they sound. I would have Drake's Sticky over the Hillbillies.
Wow.
By Kendrick and Baby Keem.
Oh my god.
And this is coming from the apparent, the man that hates everything.
Yeah, everything Drake does.
But yeah, the Hillbillies is a song I haven't really came back to since I heard it. I feel like the song overall does have a fun vibe to it, but I don't feel like there's enough energy in what Kendrick and Keem are doing on there to really fully reflect that fun vibe personally. So
you would prefer more of Family Ties then?
Yeah, I love that song. Incredible. Okay. But when it comes to just those two tracks, which have been compared a bit because it's similar kind of production and sound.
and even Baby Keem does the Sticky flow. In his verse.
I would personally say I'd take Sticky over the Hillbillies.
Yeah.
That would be.
I wouldn't agree, but to jump on this non-Drake hating train and show that I do like Drake, guys. Trust me, I do. I love him. Drizzy, he's great. Sticky is the strongest track on Honestly Nevermind, and it is it's a good tune. I think it's a good song.
You would take it over Jimmy Cooks, because I think Jimmy Cooks is probably the best, and then Sticky under that.
Yeah, I think even from the beginning I didn't like Jimmy Cooks, and it's weird because I mentioned in my review of the album how Jimmy Cooks was like a highlight, but. Again, this is where you go back to like something that I'll openly admit, but like it sucks when it happens when I have like not drastic but an opinion change like that. Where Jimmy Cooks at first I liked it maybe because it wasn't the the house music like EDM thing he was doing, which I still think he did super poorly. Yeah. Like guys, listen to a K Tronado record or Vince Staples' Big Fish Theory. Like,
absolutely.
Like they do it better. Trust me, they do.
100%.
But Jimmy Cooks, I think I'm starting to realize I don't like it because it feels like a cop out. Like if you're gonna end the album the way you started it, then just do the house from the beginning, right? And two, I don't know. The beat, 21 has a great verse to be fair, but like the Drake flow, it just still feels kind of like lazy. Like Her Loss, I think is much better for like the stronger tracks on that one. Like Rich Flex, I'll take 1,000 times over than Jimmy Cooks. You know what I mean? Like that's what I kind of am going for. Like you compare to the other Drake 21 Savage tracks, they can do. They've done a lot better than that one.
That's a solid point that you made there that I didn't really think about too much. Is the fact that Jimmy Cooks does just feel like a random sort of like deviation from the house sound. It kind of feels like Drake has moved on from the Honestly Nevermind project before it's even out. It's like, oh, you just got all this like not great house music. Here's some promo for the next album.
Exactly. And also when he says things, like I said, it goes back to what I don't like about the way he promotes albums nowadays. When he says things like, oh, people who don't like this, they just don't get it. You'll catch up.
Right.
Well, how am I supposed to catch up when you're not even staying on the sound for more than, not even the whole album? You've already moved on. The last track isn't even house music anymore. How am I supposed to, Drake? How am I supposed to do it? You have to give me more.
That was the craziest thing as well. Just like saying that you don't get it yet.
Yeah.
About an album that is dull, in my opinion, dull house music.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like this is some experimental rap that's going to take a few years to digest and catch on to. It's something that's going off of a already popular sound. Like,
falling back on me.
Like,
I can't.
On,
I've listened to Text Go Green so many times. How did that song get big? I don't get it. Like, the melodies, like, he's not even trying. He's not even trying.
I don't know if you saw, I did an album reset stream to that, where I would, I think it was every $100 donation, I would start the album again. I think I listened to Honestly Nevermind for 6 hours in a row.
Oh my god.
No breaks.
How do you do that? How do you do that without, like, the first hour is, like, just projectile vomiting all over your PC? Or, like, come on.
It was tough, man. It was tough, but I had to push through.
Your mental, your mental fortitude is on another level. Like, I've seen you do it in the way, and Brad, I know we brought it up a couple times, but Brad Taste does it for, like, Imagine Dragons, Believer, or, I don't know if he's done it for a Rodney Radke album yet, but I could never. I actually could never. Because I'm someone that, look, if I don't like something, it's not that I don't want to listen to it again, but I don't like it for a reason. I'd rather not have more of a reason, because then if I listen to it too many times, then I start to hate the artist and I don't want to, like, hate artists, you know what I mean? That seems to be like a misconception amongst you know, like what we do, or like other people who, like, you know, try to critique rap music or just music in general and hip hop and say that when we dislike a piece of music, that means we hate the artist. No, not the case at all. Listen, I know you don't like Nav. I don't like Nav that much. Nav seems like a really fun guy. Like, he seems like a cool dude. But I don't want to listen to exactly, and I don't want to listen to more of what I don't dislike of him, because then I might actually say some things about his character accidentally that just feel like unwarranted. Like, Nav doesn't deserve that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if I listen to a whole Imagine Dragons album for 6 hours because I'm getting you're doing the reset because of the donation.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy. That so many other people have already said before that they think Imagine Dragons is not a great band. I would not be saying anything different. So that's kind of my thing of, like, I just couldn't do that. Like, I would just I would tap out early, too early. 6 hours? Guys, I actually meant 15 minutes. I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I do go in with the perspective of we're going to just keep going until it ends. And by the end of this, we're going to see if anything grew on me from hearing it repeatedly, and if anything grows off of me, if it changes my opinion on the album. And there was 1 or 2 songs from what's the one, Flights Booked from Honestly Nevermind, that grew on me from that reset stream. So it was actually something from the project I appreciated more from hearing it multiple times in a row.
How's that one go? It's I Found a New, is it that one? Muse?
Oh no, it's the that one's A Keeper.
Yeah, that one is a keeper.
I know this album.
And listen, I said I hate that album. I still remember the song titles. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a massive hypocrite. Massive. I actually like that one too.
Oh, fair. Yeah. Flights Booked is the When Last Did We Feel This Close to?
Oh yeah. Do you like the Chopped and Screwed song on the album? The one where it's like super slow, like he like obviously pitch shifted the vocals down, and then like it's like a DJ Screw kind of thing that he's going for, but it's like without the appeal of an actual great DJ Screw song.
Yeah, I did not like that one, especially man. See, when you're like 5 hours deep into an album reset stream, you start feeling delirious, and then you just stretched out like pitched down vocals, and I just felt like this is going on forever, man. I'm never gonna escape this. I can't get out. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that one. If I could drop in one more hot take
by all means, go ahead.
That is solid, like, long conversation right here, man. And
this is exactly what I wanted and more. It's been great.
Yeah. I mean, at the start of it, like 30 minutes to an hour. I think it's been like 2 now. So hey, we're having a good convo right here.
No, for sure.
one more I'll drop in there is I don't really enjoy Alfredo by Freddie Gibbs
Whoa.
and The Alchemist.
Wow. That's a tough one for even me to hear. Yeah.
Maybe again, I need to re-listen to know if I stand on this for sure. I'm saying it. It's going on the internet now,
Yeah.
you know. So don't take
That's
this.
tough.
Everybody watching, don't take this as a final opinion. All right, it's just off of what I remember right now. Also, I think a big part of the reason why might be the production.
Dude, I'm speechless.
That one I would say falls in hot take.
No, that's the hottest one. That's the hottest one.
Yeah,
that's for sure the hottest one.
That project, I listened to it, and there was a video I made a while back that I definitely do disagree with now, but it was rappers that are better as features.
And you put Freddie Gibbs on there?
Freddie Gibbs on there.
Wow. I mean, at least you do kind of disagree with it at this point. Yeah.
I do disagree with that now for sure.
Okay.
That was mainly built off of the fact that I wasn't crazy about Alfredo.
Yeah.
And I liked a lot of the features I'd heard from Freddie Gibbs up to that point.
Yeah.
But now I have heard Pinata, which I had not heard before making that video.
Yeah.
And now I disagree with that pick.
Yeah, Pinata is.
So there's what
it's amazing. Yeah.
Pinata is great.
Yeah. That might be my favorite hip hop album of the 2010s, actually.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Whereas Alfredo,
but it's Mad Lib, so I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And I love Freddie Gibbs' flow on almost every single track. So his
flow is incredible. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, but I think with Alfredo there was just something about the beats that just didn't click with me. They sort of had a kind of slower sound to them.
Yeah.
And not necessarily that I don't like music that's slower, because there's plenty of music that's slower that I do like.
Yeah.
But just the specific way that The Alchemist produced that one just didn't click with me on my few listens of it.
Well, I definitely see what you're saying. It is true. Alfredo, when it comes to the production, it's trying to be a little more laid back, you know.
Yeah.
Like the album cover kind of says it, you know. Freddie Gibbs is this mafioso, you know.
Yeah. Maybe it's
like,
a bit too sort of like elegant for
yeah,
me. You know,
it's supposed to be a very classy, very lush.
Champagne glasses type of music,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes that doesn't always hit for me. So yeah, maybe that's something to do with it.
But hopefully on a re-listen, maybe your opinion changes a little bit, but the way you've explained it, I understand. And it's not my favorite Alchemist times another producer collab either. That would have to go to Action Bronson's Rare Chandeliers. I love that record. You have to listen to that. It's super good. I think it's, first of all, the production is perfectly matched with Action. I think even though it's early Action, like before he kind of found that sort of formula of like that he has, like, you know, the food bars, you know, the sports references, and the like I said, it's still kind of in its infancy, but maybe that's almost like that's very interesting to me. You know, when I look at a director like Wes Anderson, who found his style pretty early and like stuck to it, one of my favorite movies of his, maybe my favorite, is Rushmore. Because it's kind of like, it's autobiographical, but it's also like his style isn't there yet exactly, but there's glimpses of it. And the fact that it's not a Wes Anderson movie so much, but it's also a Wes Anderson movie, really intrigues me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So maybe that's why I also love Ray Chandeliers. Action Bronson is still Action Bronson on that album, though. It's unapologetically him, but it's not so him yet. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't got it. He hasn't gone into like, you know, Mr. Wonderful, where he's doing the like acting crazy, or Terry or Easy Rider. Like he's not there yet. But I love it. The features are great. And again, I think just like, once you look at that mixtape cover, you know exactly how the album is going to sound like. And maybe once I put myself in that mindset, I'm like, wow, this is incredible. So.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, there you go. So that's your favorite Alchemist and rapper collab right there.
Definitely. I've always wanted him to do, again, an Eminem collab between... would be great, because I think Eminem kind of... Maybe that's a hot take, but not really. I do think Eminem should close out his career, and maybe you'll agree with like a super strong record. And I think maybe a collab record with either Dr. Dre or a left field pick like The Alchemist, even though they're friends, but that could be really good, you know?
That could be really solid. Just close out with the really strong rap album. You know? Finish up that way. And
he's going to be in Fortnite now, so.
Yeah, there we go. Eminem in Fortnite. Let's go.
I'll be hopping up. I'll be hopping.
Yeah. But that's the thing with those hot takes, man. I think there's never necessarily a wrong opinion when it comes to rap music, as long as you can just at least generally explain why you feel a certain way about something.
Yeah.
So that's where that was my sort of justification for my Alfredo pick right there.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
And that's what makes hip hop the best genre in the world.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
I agree.
And I think that is a great way to close this phenomenal conversation off. I will say, though, I'll give you the floor one more time before we close this. If you have anything that you're going to be working on and putting out in the future that you want to let your fans know or the audience know, by all means, go ahead. Sure. Anything you're working on?
There is a couple of things I've got cooking up at the moment. Next video I'm going to be working on, which might or might not be out by the time this goes out. I guess we'll see how the timeline for that goes. But I'll be doing the best nostalgia bait samples in rap songs, which that's going to be a lot of fun. Another video that I've been planning for a long time but been putting off just because of what the video is and the amount of time it's going to take is, so I listened to all 13 DJ Khaled albums. Next one I plan on following up with is I listened to all 6 Machine Gun Kelly albums, because I feel like there we can really go through different stages of his career all the way up to the pop punk, and I haven't heard any of his albums, so it's going to be a new experience for me, and that's going to be a big project style of video.
And live streams every Monday.
Paid request live streams every single Monday. Absolutely.
There you go. Well, everyone, there you have it. CDTV Productions. Couldn't have gone any better if we tried. Of course, you're always welcome here on No Banana Peels. And I just have to say, CDTV the G. If you're watching, the G stands for genius. Thank you.